Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another classic film review. Today's classic film review is the 1980s science fiction horror film Saturn 3, a film that is directed by Stanley Donen and it stars Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett and Harvey Keitel. Now, I thought with the recent passing of Kirk Douglas, who died recently at the age of 103, what an incredible age to get to. I think it's anybody that can get to that kind of age, you know, fantastic innings, brilliant. And I wanted to do a film review as a tribute to Kirk Douglas, but I wanted to do a film review that, not a traditional one. You know, everyone's probably going to go for Spartacus and things like that for Kirk Douglas, incredible films, obviously. But Saturn 3 is a film that I kind of grew up on. And it's possibly the first Kirk Douglas film I saw. I might have seen a few of them on TV when I was growing up, but I probably wouldn't have watched them. This is the first one that I would have watched as a youngster, and kind of understanding what it was, with Kirk Douglas in. So I wanted to review Saturn 3. Now, I'm well aware that this isn't considered like a influential science fiction film or highly respected science fiction film, but it is still a pretty decent science fiction film, or certainly the idea is very, very decent. And this focuses on this colony on Saturn, that is this moon that is kind of manned by Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett. They are also a couple and they kind of do this farming for Earth, and Harvey Keitel's character, Captain Benson, who we see right at the beginning of the film, is a bit of a homicidal maniac, really. He heads out to Saturn 3 with a new robot called Hector, who is supposedly going to make things run so smooth that one of them won't be needed anymore and will be sent back to Earth. Now this causes a bit of a rift because obviously Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas, Adam and Alex, are lovers as well, so they don't want to be split up. And Harvey Keitel's character Benson has eyes for Farrah Fawcett. Things start getting pear-shaped fairly quickly, and they realise that this robot Hector has taken on the homicidal maniac personality of Captain Benson, and starts trying to manipulate their lives. Right, that's kind of the story that we get with Saturn 3. Now, this was, in some ways, quite a brave science fiction film because it has horror elements in it as well. There are a couple of scenes that are quite effective. There's a scene where Hector the robot wears the face of Harvey Keitel, and there's a hand getting chopped off here and there. So it does have quite a couple of effective scenes in it here, and it does a reasonable job, this film, of building tension. And making you feel tension. So it is successful in an awful lot of what it does. But my understanding is it was quite a troubled production, this, and there were many interviews at the time, certainly with Farrah Fawcett, where she claimed the final product that was released in cinemas was completely different than the film they intended to make to start with. There were directing problems. It was John Barry was supposed to direct, and then he was kind of, you know, booted off the project, and Stanley Donen took over, and apparently even Kirk Douglas directed for a few days in that transitional period to keep the film going. Harvey Keitel's voice was dubbed by another actor, because I think his heavy accent, I think it is a Boston accent, they didn't like the way that sounded for this character, so they had his voice dubbed. And apparently they did ask Harvey Keitel to come into the studio and redub his voice in like a more monotone and robotic way, to make him seem, you know, very neutral with the voice and not with any kind of accent. But for whatever reason that didn't happen, and there were differing reports that he refused to do it or he just didn't have time to do it. So yeah, if you ever watch this film, that is not Harvey Keitel's voice, even though it is his performance, and it's interesting to see him in a film from 1980, Harvey Keitel. Kirk Douglas, I think, is actually the best thing in this film. He commits to his character. He was 62 years old when he made this film, but he was super fit, and you see examples of that in the film with him jogging, and he does his trademark skipping routine, and you know what I mean if you know anything about Kirk Douglas, and he's in great shape for the film. And he actually plays a believable romantic lead with Farrah Fawcett, even though she was 32 years old at the time of this film being made, so vastly younger than Kirk Douglas. The weak point here in this film is Farrah Fawcett, who gives a very bland performance here. I think you can see her acting skills are just not there, you know what I mean? Beautiful, beautiful woman and an iconic person from the 70s and 80s in regards to posters on the walls type of thing. But no, there was not really a great deal of talent there in regards to acting ability, and certainly not on display in this film. So I'm going to be kind to this film, mainly for nostalgia reasons, and mainly because it's one of the early science fiction films, one of the grittier science fiction films that I watched when I was young. And so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Might be a little bit generous there, but I do think it is certainly warranted a watch. It's well made for the most part. I think the design of Hector is done really, really well, and the threat of this 8-foot robot stomping about the corridors is done really well. It has some reasonable tense moments in it, this film, a couple of nice horror moments in it. The pacing's not brilliant, but it is certainly worth a watch, especially if you're a science fiction fan and you've never seen it. So that is my review for Saturn 3 and my tribute to Kirk Douglas. May he rest in peace. An absolute Hollywood legend, has made countless classic films, and this is my contribution to a review for one of his classic films. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching, everybody.